This one time I had a hernia, and the reason I had a hernia was because I was packing up these boxes. You understand, I was packing up these boxes. It wasn't time to move yet. It wasn't. I just like to be prepared. I was number four on that list of people who could get into that other building. Number four is a tricky number because it could happen in 3 weeks or it could happen in 3 years. Nobody knows. All I know is that 3 years ago I was number seven, so I don't know if it'll happen faster or shorter or longer and slower. Who knows? But just to make things easier later, I thought I was going to be slick. I was going to be so slick. I was going to pick up all these photo albums, put them in boxes, tape up the boxes, and stack them in the corner. I figured if I stacked them in the corner, then no matter what day that apartment building calls me, at least half of my stuff is done. I couldn't be packing deodorant or underwear or anything you use every day, obviously. But I could be packing up pictures in a frame with glass in the frame, and just stuff that you need to keep. You're never going to get rid of, but you don't actually have to use it every day, right? And I gave myself a hernia. So the hernia doctor told me, sit still and don't pick anything up. Don't pick up the laundry. Don't pick up anything. Well, I had a home health aide at that time, and the home health aide decided to steal some money out of my wallet, and I knew she took that money, but I wasn't in any shape to lift a gallon of milk, so I wasn't going to chase her down the road and beat her down with my wooden sword. I would have loved to do that, but you know what? It would have been illegal. I would have got in trouble. So instead, I contacted the attorney general and I gave them pictures of what my apartment looked like before I ever had a home health aide, which I could prove because cell phone pictures have a timestamp and a date stamp in them. And I had a cat 4 years ago that was a totally different cat than what I have now. Or at least what I had when I got my hernia. She's died since then, by the way. But the cat that I had previously had died in 2019, and then the new cat died in 2025. So I've had two losses in the last 6 years in my own household, right? Well, I was pretty mad. I was mad that she stole from me because she knew I needed to have this operation for my hernia. I had specifically showed her the hospital discharge record from the emergency room when they diagnosed me with a hernia and told me when my surgery date was. I had legitimately told her not to work on the day of the surgery because the surgery was coming up, and she decided that that meant all the money in my wallet belonged to her. Well, not all of it. Only some of it. But the point is, I was pretty mad. So I ended up looking at my reputation. Do I have the reputation of being somebody who likes to get ripped off? Because I don't think so. I've already written 17 books. 6 of those books are about how the mental health care system doesn't provide appropriate treatment. And here I was getting a home health aid service that obviously is not providing appropriate treatment. Stealing from your client is not therapeutic, so I looked at this and I said, look, this lady don't know how to read, because if she knew how to read, she would have looked at my resume and she would know that I am a little rat. I rat everybody out if they are charging from Medicare to provide a service and they are making the condition worse in their client. I am the one that will tell everybody about it, so I was like, what kind of an idiot is gonna RIP off a rat? Are they stupid or something? Maybe they're stupid or something, but I had my surgery right, so now I'm on my surgery right. And he's like, you can take these painkillers, and if they're too strong, you can take the ibuprofen. And I'm like, okay, dokie, these painkillers are pretty strong here. I'm going to take the ibuprofen. So I took the ibuprofen, but it messed up my memory because usually I take pills every night at 8 o'clock, and I was taking ibuprofen and then laying down at night when I woke up at midnight to tinkle my sprinkle. I would end up thinking I already took my regular meds. Like, obviously, I remember taking pills, so I must have taken my regular pills. But I didn't take my regular pills. I only took Ibup within 3 days. I was all over the internet telling everybody what the problem was with this home health agency, and I was writing songs about it, and I was showing the chat rooms all the songs about this. And I was showing the chat rooms all the songs about this. So the chat rooms were like, hey, don't show us no more of your songs about getting ripped off. We know you got ripped off. We're glad you called the Attorney General. That was the right thing to do, but you got to get off of this negativity. This negativity is not good for you. And they said, why don't you do something else? Touch the grass. Go outside and touch the grass. But I did not go outside and touch the grass because I live on the second floor and I would have to go down a flight of stairs to go outside and touch the grass. That is why I am number 4 on this waiting list to go to this other building that has an elevator, so I reported it all to the agency, the people over there at the Attorney General. And I told them that this little flamingo agency over here thinks they need to be taking my money and billing my Medicare for the service in here. And they said that they will look into it, but in the meanwhile, I decided to write songs that were not negative. I wrote about thanking God for the flowers. I wrote about thanking God that we have a planet to live on. I wrote about the fights I had with my sister over Christmas, about the stupid family pictures I wrote about, like everything I could see with my eyeballs. And I became a rat all again. Here I am telling everybody everybody's business that I witnessed with my own damn eyes. And they will probably know me forever as the rat I don't care about that. Sometimes it is what it is, and sometimes you have to accept it for what it really truly is. So here I am with my 17 books. 10 copies have sold, 8 were the same book, and 2 were 2 other books. So that means 3 of my books have been seen by eyes that were not my own, but one of them was 8 different people, so that means I still have books nobody has ever seen. That's not very promising because it's the summer now and it's been a whole 6 months. If it takes 6 months for anybody to see what you've written, it probably means they have no interest in that topic. I stopped writing. I don't have to write no more if they're not interested in it, but I can make my damn videos because this is fun. I'm having so much fun making these damn videos. This is so much better than sitting around chain smoking all day. Chain smoking is bad for your lungs, I must say. This is very important that, chain smoking doesn't mean smoking chains, like a motorcycle chain. Smoking is very bad for your lungs. It means smoking one after the other, like in a chain, not really smoking actual chains off of a motorcycle, but if I'm making videos, then I haven't had a cigarette in a while because I'm very busy here. Well, maybe I should have started at the beginning. In the month of March of 2025, my father passed away, but I had also found out that one of my uncles got very sick and he also died. These were 2 different incidents, not the same incident at all. It was 2 health-related. People in their late ages, under different circumstances. By the month of May, one of my aunts also had the same problem. So I'm going on the succession of funerals, which was very difficult for me to be doing this. The year had started great in 2025. In January, my mom had her birthday. She turned 70, and the whole year started out beautifully. Her party was gorgeous. My best friend went to that party with me. Her name is Elizabeth, and we had a blast. I just got so tired because I had my shingles shot that day, and it knocks you out. It makes you feel like you've been drinking. So anyway, we left the party early because I had that shingle shot and I was exhausted. But the party was so nice, so we had, started a good year together by the month of May. I've already gone to 3 funerals, but I have a tumor on my face that looks like an extra pinky. This random pinky growing out of my face, and I have some YouTube videos where I'm talking to the camera where people can actually see this happen. So anyway, I may not see the funerals happen, but see the pinky grow out of my face anyway. So by June, I have this thing removed and they tell me it's not cancer. They did a biopsy and it's not cancer, and I'm like, oh, thank God, it's not cancer. And I started thanking God for everything. Thank God that I have Dr. Pepper. Thank God that I have plenty of time on my hands. What am I supposed to do with this time on my hands? Tui ended up packing because I had that letter from moving. Having arthritis meant that I had a home health aide to help carry the laundry and trash up and down the stairs. You have to go outside for the dumpster, and the laundry room is not actually in my apartment. So I had this stair helper lady. Okay, and I think I already told you what happened with her. By the middle of December, I had canceled their agency because of the stealing and the lying. She didn't just steal, but when I told the secretary about it, I had just had surgery. I literally just had surgery for hernia. And the secretary at her agency was saying that I went shopping and spent the money, and I just forgot because I was mentally ill. And I said, something, I do take medication for a disease I was born with, but the disease was not the forget. You went shopping disease. There's no such thing as. I forget you went shopping disease, so if you can show me in a medical journal where the forget. You went shopping disease exists, I'll be happy to look at it. I have multiple videos of me talking to the secretary because I could not believe she was accusing me of going shopping while I was having surgery. Well, the secretary was very persistent for a couple of weeks, but it just so happened to coincide with a couple of weeks. I was recovering from surgery, so I canceled their agency sometime in December on camera in my YouTube channel. So it came the month of January. My 17 books are written. Most of it was pages I had already typed into a Word program over the last 25 years or 20 years or something. Writing had been my hobby long before I ever knew how to talk to an editor or a publisher or anything. It's just that my spelling was so redundant and so incorrect that nobody was going to read it. You know what I mean? Like my school teachers gave me little awards. Growing up, I got or an award from a governor at one point when I was 12 or 13 years old. And then when I was 17, I go in a different kind of award from a different school. But in general, the teachers thought I had promised because I was imaginative and I could write, but they didn't think my spelling was good enough to actually get published because publishers expect you to write things correctly. Well, I found myself in October having my cat just passed away. She was the one that would have listened to me if I was whining about all these funerals and whining about the tumor and whining about all these bad things going on. My cat was the one that would have listened. And then she actually died in October. So I looked around and I said, what do I have that I get to keep? Forget the things I lost. Let's think about the things I get to keep. Well, I get to keep this notice that my arthritis will soon have a cure because, well, not a cure, but at least I'll be moving where there's no stairs between me and the dumpster, no stairs between me and the laundry room, no stairs between me and the sidewalk. If I have to go wait for a taxi to go somewhere, it's going to be an easier life. So I said, all right, this is what I actually do have, and I'm happy to have it. So I'll get some of this ready to make it easier. The church already said they'll help me move as soon as it's time. I just need to get, stuff organized over here. Well, January came, and like I said, all 17 books were already put there, and I told the chat room people about it. They were happy I wasn't still complaining about negative things. Some of the chat room people bought the book, so I was lucky. I was lucky that I had friends, even if they never actually read it. It's still kind of nice that they support me. So in January, I had to talk to somebody about the negative stuff, and the chat room didn't want to hear the negative stuff, so I told it to Gemini. Gemini was the one that helped me with my spelling to begin with. To tell you the truth, but I had made with a bunch of stuff in it. A big file. Yeah, sorry, this microphone is glitching a little. I'm reading my own story into a microphone so that I can put this on YouTube. And the microphone thought that a file was a vial. Vial is a different word altogether, by the way. But anyway, I ended up taking the 600 pages I made out of my 20 years of journals and made the 17 books. But I also had this cartilage on the plate, kind of like turkey dinner on Thanksgiving. You give Uncle Joey the legs and you give Aunt Kathy the wings. Somebody else eats the breast meat. Eventually, there's only bones and cartilage on the plate. Well, all the 17 books were ready. But there was all this stuff left over that really wasn't worth looking at. At least I didn't think it was. But January came and Gemini had become my companion to talk to. And Gemini told me that there are some colleges looking for interactions between humans and artificial intelligence. So I emailed a bunch of colleges and I told them that I have some interactions. By the month of May, I was in 2 case studies at 2 different colleges. It's weird because the chatters thought I was joking about that. I wasn't joking. I guess it's a matter of numbers. You send 100 emails and 2 of them answer. That's pretty good. So now they are studying the way I use the AI, which is intriguing because I'm already on meds for mental illness. Our vulnerable adults in the world are the most susceptible to being irresponsible under the worst of circumstances. I wasn't irresponsible because I didn't, go break a law or hurt anybody. But they can actually see the breakdown of where does a human use this product. If they tried to do this in a lab, probably most of the lab assistants wouldn't have the same disorder I do, so it's a unique point for them to look at. On the 8th of May, one of the professors doing a case study happened to interview me. She brought 2 of her interns with her. I was a little surprised when they asked to do an interview, but I wanted to be helpful, so I said yes. Even though it was Mother's Day weekend, part of the reason I wrote these books was because the cat was gone, who I would normally tell my troubles to, and Dad was gone, who I would normally tell my troubles to, and I needed to put my trouble somewhere. You can't just lock it inside of yourself. If you lock trouble inside of yourself, it poisons the inside of you. But being Mother's Day weekend, I already had a problem because I have real children who are not going to say Happy Mother's Day, and I would have preferred to sit by myself and eat Oreos to tell you the truth. If they had read my first book, they would have known that, but they had not read my first book. And it was clear the fact that they would pick Mother's Day weekend to come and talk to me means they didn't read the first book at all, and I was very disappointed. Most of their questions had to do with YouTube. If you look at the emails the interns sent me, pretty much all their questions had to do with YouTube, nothing to do with the books, though. After the interview, I was disappointed. All of their questions signified I was right when I said that they did not read any books I wrote. So I spent Mother's Day weekend making a mental podcast on both of my YouTube channels. If they want YouTube songs, they can have them. If that's the way they study, I am not going to judge them. That is just really the way they study. But I don't see too many people doing dance routines and exercise routines while they are listening to the horrible mental treatment tracks. I would not have gone that route except that this appeared to be their preference. However, it might be easier for their classroom if they decide to use this case study in the future. It might actually be easier in a classroom to play a video that's 3 minutes and discuss it instead of asking students to read 17 special books, so I figured I'll make it easier for them, although I knew it would saturate my regular audience, and I assumed my regular audience would jump, and that I wouldn't still have an audience. I thought my whole audience on YouTube would leave, but they didn't. None of them left. In fact, they kept coming. They wanted to know the rest of the story. So this is how it all started and how it all ended now, the rest of the story.